King Richard was a very interesting movie, seeing the rise of the Williams sisters through the eyes of their father. But before I get into my review of this movie, please consider this your spoiler warning, because I will be talking spoiler-ish. So you've been warned. So this movie, in a nutshell, is seeing the rise of the Williams sisters through their father's passion, pursuit, ambitions, and very thought out career for their children, not only for the Serena and Venus, but all their children with different paths to life, of course. But the movie tells us that it was very precise in what he tried to do, and he had a vision. I thought that the script was very well done. It was very well acted through everyone involved, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I wanted to kind of just touch on this a little bit, because I think this movie does a good job in how Venus and Serena's father was very militant in his approach to having them practice, the amount of work, having such high standards for them to achieve greatness, and what it would take to keep them humble, to keep them hungry, to keep them always on keeping that eye on the prize. And this movie does a really good job, but also it just, in more recent times, because this is, around the 1988s, but we've seen this kind of heavy influence a lot in sports. We saw that with Tiger Woods' dad, how at an early age he was already, practice, and this is what it takes to be great. This is what it takes for determination. And we also have seen it in a little bit more recent time, as far as like what we all kind of have it in our head with LeVar Ball. I associate, and if you don't know who LeVar Ball, he is the father of the Ball brothers, which a couple of them are in the NBA now, and how grandiose he was, how his belief in his son's skills and how they would dominate the NBA and how they would change the game and how they would do it. Now, a lot of that stuff hasn't happened yet for the Ball brothers, but we could see similarities in how Richard did this to LeVar did his thing, and maybe LeVar was taking a playbook from Richards and saying, hey, I have to toot my son's horn that much more to get this much more attention on them, because they have such an uphill battle to fight. And Richard did that amazingly with bringing that kind of attention to Venus, to give her that notoriety, give her that exposure, and get people talking about her. And at such an early age, we're talking about 13, 14, and being this phenom that we now know after we've seen him, along with her. Serena plays a secondary role in this. This is more focusing on just how the father executed and believed, and it's kind of like that's the center focus of this movie, in having the undying belief in a father towards his children, that drive, that push to see your children and wish the best for them, to wish them to achieve greatness in any aspect of life that they choose to have. Now, and I think in some kind of level, if you're a parent, you can relate to this movie, which I think this movie does a very good job in tugging on that strings, because parents will be watching this and saying, yeah, this is what I want for my child. This is the kind of dreams that I have. And it's going to tug at a couple of heartstrings. Now, with that being said about Richard and his determination, let's not kid ourselves. Venus and later on Serena are the ones that had that talent. Yes, the their father recognized the talent, just like Tiger Woods' dad, just like LeVar Ball with his kids. They recognized the talent. They just had to keep them focused because as we all well know, and Jay-Z said it best in one of his songs when he said, "I've seen hoop dreams waste like a I no it's I've seen hoop dreams deflate like a crack fiend's weight." So basically saying that there's a lot of temptation, a lot of things that can derail a career, a vision, a Michael Jordan-esque person. There's been plenty of people. You think Michael Jordan was the GOAT, but there's been better players out there. But guess what? Drugs, the neighborhood, family, some things might have come up. They didn't have a chance. And that's the message that not this movie per se, but just that's the message that we've seen in sports many times over. That same thing where you could be talented, but it's so easy to get caught up with a woman, to get caught up with a girl, to get caught up with drugs, to get caught up with outside influences, to get caught up with boys in William and Serena's case, where they could have been, saying, hey, this cute boy or this boy that I like, I really, I don't have time for tennis. I want to kind of hang out with him. And having that kind of focus and determination that their father said, hey, no, I see you guys great. I see you guys as champions. I see you guys as doing this and changing the world and all that good stuff. It takes that kind of thing. But, again, let's not kid ourselves. It's the talent. There's been many of parents that have that determination, that have that those visions, that push their kids that hard. But unfortunately, because breaks don't happen, some things don't work the way it does. You don't get the coach to coach, your Hall of Fame coach to coach your kids. You can't get the money to, take them to the track meet. You don't have the notoriety for whatever instances, or reasons. Stuff just doesn't happen. So yes, it's a great story, and a story that should be heard because they have been role models now for more than a decade. A ton of women, of little girls, are growing up knowing them as the greatest sister duo, especially with Serena now being hailed probably the greatest tennis player or female athlete, period, of our generation and many generations. That feats that won't probably be defeated or taken down ever, maybe. But let's not kid ourselves in saying that, if you push your kids this much, this is the results that they will get. No. They should be pushed. They should be challenged, but nothing is granted. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is for sure. The only thing that is for sure is your effort and your love for something, which the movie does do a good job. You hear him say, hey, just go out there and have fun. Just go out there and do what you love. And I think that was the message that gets lost in it, even though it tries to put it up front, but we get caught up in their father's, aspiration. They're just the way their father looks at it. And again, the results speak for themselves. Like I said earlier, look at the accolades and the awards that both sisters have achieved in their careers, and that pretty much speaks for itself. Now, with that being said, I thought that the acting from the cast was great. I thought that Will Smith did a great performance in this movie, and many are calling this an Oscar-worthy performance for Will Smith, and it might be that this movie does win him a Oscar. But I don't think this is his greatest performance, or like I said, it probably is an Oscar-worthy performance for this year. But I think his portrayal in The Pursuit of Happiness was probably the best I've ever seen him perform. And a close runner-up was his interpretation of Ali. But as far as A Pursuit of Happiness, it took it to another level. I can't finish that movie without bawling uncontrollably to the point where tears are like just waterfalls down my eyes. And I think that is his greatest performance. So I'm not here to deny that for this year, 2021, that this will win him an Emmy. It might, because I haven't seen a lot of performances better than this so far, and we're running it at the end of November, the start of December, and I don't think I'm going to see this type of performance from anyone else. So does he deserve the Academy Award? Well, it remains to be seen. But I thought from the supporting cast to his wife that played in this movie did a great job. I'm gonna butcher. I butcher names. If you're new to the show, I butcher names. But the actor's name is Anjanou Alice, that plays Brandy Williams. I think she did a great job, and a lot of supporting cast did a great job. The actor that was playing Rick Macy, John Bernthal, did a great job. I thought Tony Goldwyn did a great job acting. The girls did a good job. The two actresses that played Serena and Venus, Demi Singleton playing Serena, and Sania Sidney playing Venus Williams, did a great job. But when there was times where their performances weren't there as far, and it's hard when you have kid actors or teenage actors to kind of put that pressure. But I think they did a very good job in their portrayals of young Venus and Serena. Not perfect. There was definitely flaws. And not only that, there was flaws with also Will Smith looking into the camera. The girls did that a couple times in this movie, looking into the camera, which, it's a cardinal sin in movies, but they're to be forgiven. It's hard to be able to always be on, and they did a great job, as like I said, for what they could. When Venus, when they had the braces on her, and you could tell that she couldn't talk right. Now, was that by design? They could have probably done it a little bit less. I know that Venus did have the braces, and she, we know her in her earlier career with the braces on. But I think for the movie, they could have just done it a little less, and you could tell that they dropped the script for her to not have that many more lines because of the way it sounded. And I know they held very true to the actual story. There was very little Hollywooding, if you will, with this movie, but they could have probably done that down. Now, I lived in that time. Not in Compton, but probably like 20 minutes away from Compton in East LA. And this is one of my nitpicks that I had. Now, I know Hollywood has to Hollywood, and this movie is no different, right? Because a true story will be kind of boring because, not a lot of obstacles. So obstacles have to be created. Now, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but I grew up very close to Compton, Inglewood, all that, Watts, the whole shebang. I was pretty close, and I was also involved in sports. But those gang scenes when Richard was getting beat up and stuff like that, or they were harassing the girls, like, I'm not saying it didn't happen. It might have did happen, but it seemed too grandiose for the movie. And this is coming from someone that's practiced sports and stuff like that, and was around, girls that were also in sports, whether it be volleyball, basketball and stuff like that. Yeah, there was catcalling and stuff like that from the local, gangs, if you will, but never to that extent where I would feel like they were gonna go and beat up a father because they were out playing tennis. I lived in an area where it was one of the highest crime rates, drive-bys happening and stuff. And I felt like the movie did a good job in when we saw that drive-by happen when he just got shut up coming up, because that was life. I don't care if you were in East LA, if you were in Montebello, if you were in Watts, if you were in Compton, that shit was life back in the 1980s to 1990s. And a lot of people might not feel a bit, oh my God, that was grandiose. Nah, that was timid. That was just one scene that they could have probably elaborated on the crime and how they grew up. But that was legit. But when they beat him up and how they were like, oh man, we're gonna go to your house and run a train. That's not the way gangs worked back then. So I think that was a little bit more now to just put a little bit of drama in an otherwise bland story. Not that the Williams sisters' rise to fame and their rise to where they are now isn't a story that could have been told, but it's pretty straightforward as far as, like, you know, because there's just so much commitment to your craft, to your sport, to be caught up in any other BS, and people around you would see it, just like we saw a little bit, even though I don't know how true that is, when the same gangsters that were there bullying him or beating him up were the same ones protecting him afterwards. When people in the hood saw this kind of thing, they protected their own. Like I said, it wasn't that kind of thing. So I thought that part was a little bit too Hollywood for me, and a couple other things that were a little bit Hollywood. But all in all, I found this movie to be an enjoyable watch. I did tear up at parts in this movie, and it drum up emotions. Me personally, as a father, someone that wants the best for my daughters, someone that wants to see them achieve greatness, it tugs at you. And this movie does a great job. And if you've been with the show, and if you've seen me do reviews, if you could make me cry, if you could make me laugh, if you could make me feel something, you did your job. So for me, this movie was an A, a solid A. Not perfect. Like I said, just some of the acting. There is some pacing issues. This movie is 2 hours and some change. I think they could have probably knocked down like probably 20 minutes of the useless stuff, and it would have been more crisp, more to the point, you know, not just leading us in empty dialogue and in how, because let's be honest, yes, her dad is an interesting story, but it wouldn't be his story if his daughters weren't just great. And I'm not saying anything about their father or stuff like that, but the story is Venus and Serena, how they overcame in a sport that was dominated by mostly white people, or I hate when I say white people. Now every time I say stuff like that, it makes it like there's some racial overtone. But the same thing could be said for Tiger Woods, where you go into a white dominated sport, and then all of a sudden you change the game. You elevate that sport to a whole different level, where now everyone else's have to elevate their game just to even match you. But don't get me wrong, this takes nothing away from this movie. It's a great watch. Go out. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it yet, go out. It's on HBO Max if you don't want to pay, if you already have that subscription, and it's playing in theaters as we speak. So great movie, enjoyable movie. But hey, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.